Hello, everyone. We're going to get started in a few seconds. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for Small Business Appreciation Week. We thought we'd get involved by having eye contact, host this live stream with some successful entrepreneurs. I was just going to say entrepreneurs, but successful entrepreneurs in my mind. We'll hear from them on how successful they feel. But today I'm joined by Adam Sang. At adamsang.com, but he owns a few different companies. So he's a small town serial entrepreneur. I really loved hearing that and seeing that on LinkedIn. I definitely have some questions for him around that. What does that mean and what do you do? Then also I'm joined by Laurie Bruns, Laurie Bruns LLC. She is pretty much a trainer of many things, but really hones in on some specific items around making people successful, including myself. Her and I always get together. And Bruce Paulson, I believe, is mostly SEO and helps companies get their what do you want to call it? Websites and businesses found on the internet, mostly Google these days. And then Doreen Morin Van Dam from Morin Media. I had the pleasure of speaking with Doreen at a conference, met her there, stayed in touch over the years. And she does basically social media and marketing and public speaking. Thank you, everybody, for joining me today. What I'd love to do is just go around. And the first thing I want you to do is, tell us who you are and tell us your why you got started. And I hesitated there because I know his why might be very different because he has a few different businesses, which he can tell us about today. So Adam, you are up first.
Yeah. Thank you for inviting me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. My name's Adam. I am, as he said, I'm a small town serial entrepreneur. My why is really about just loving business. I always, from a very young age, I just really enjoyed and was fascinated by the reason why people buy, the logistics behind why everything happens inside of a organization. And from there, it's just from every single business that I'm a part of, I just do my best to have lasting impact on employees. So I think it's hand in hand between my love for business and also my love for building teams.
Awesome. Let's go with Laurie next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Laurie Bruns of Laurie Bruns LLC. I'm an executive leadership coach. I'm also a corporate facilitator and keynote speaker. My why comes from wanting to help others really empower themselves and be the best version of themselves. I've been doing this prior to starting my own business. I was an educator, and now I get to do it as a coach, corporate facilitator, and keynote speaker. So I really help people realize their true potential.
Awesome. Next up is Bruce.
Hello, everyone. I'm Bruce Paulson, and I primarily move websites to the top of Google searches. I do that for my own businesses, and I do that for clients' businesses. And I got into it because I was into marketing, and I was studying marketing, and I was studying specifically direct response marketing. And I wanted to get a job in direct response, but I couldn't get anyone to hire me. So my buddy had a pressure washer, and I bought it from him, and I started writing mailers to neighborhoods to see if I could sell pressure washing, because that's the only thing. I actually read a blog post about a guy who did that, and I was like, okay, well, I could test out my writing skills doing that. And so I did that for a couple of years and built that up. And it was super hard. And I actually had to learn how to pressure wash because I had no idea. I didn't want to actually do pressure washing. I just wanted to write ads. And then it was, and I was just doing all like old school. I didn't have a website. It was all direct, what the USPS calls every door direct mail. you pick a route and everybody gets one of your flyers. And so I knew I wanted to be on the internet. And so I knew it was probably a good idea to have a website. And so it was a process of like learning how to get a website, get it up. And then when I did that, nobody was calling me because it wasn't showing up anywhere. And so I had to figure out how to get it to show up on Google and get phone calls. And then once I did that, like family and friends were like, hey, can you do that for me? And I didn't like pressure washing is very hard. There's definitely worse jobs, but like I wanted to do marketing, not pressure washing. And so like running that business, writing the ads was only a small portion of what I was doing. And so I started doing what I was doing for myself for other businesses, and then just kind of went through there. It was just basically a series of solving problems. And that's kind of how I ended up where I am.
Awesome. Well, first, I need to mention I'm doing horrible at emceeing here. I'm not putting up the right banners at the right time and moving people to the spotlight. I'm used to speaking, but this is fun. It really is. And, the reminders always help. So I appreciate the reminders. And then really quick question for you, Bruce. Direct mail. Do you think it's making a comeback in any way?
So this answer is like, even when I got into SEO, you would hear SEO is dead. But you also hear that direct mail is dead. You hear all these things are dead. It's not dead if you can do it well. So flyers still work if you can do it well. Facebook ads still work if you can do it well. Radio ads, it all just depends. If you can do it well, it still works.
Right. And QR codes are like bell-bottom jeans. They keep coming back every now and then, and pandemic helped that.
Yeah, I thought QR codes were done a few years ago, but they have made a comeback.
Awesome. Well, we're going to move on to Doreen. Let me give her the spotlight.
And I want to just add to that, Bruce, not only do you need to do it well, right? You need to make sure you know what your goal is, right? Because if your goal is to reach a bunch of people in a very local community that is very rural, direct mail would totally work, right? Because they all go to the post office to get their mail. So that makes sense. Now, in a big city, maybe not as much. Maybe that would be too hard to reach the right people because there's so many there. So it depends on what you're selling. So all of that. So my name is Doreen Morin Van Dam. I'm a social media strategist. I started my business 11 years ago when my youngest son started kindergarten, who is now a rising senior in high school. I had been a stay-at-home mom for a lot of years, and prior to that, a nanny. I had no business experience, and decided that I was going to put on a hat and be a social media manager. I took an online course, started just telling people what I did. A local charity said, hey, we don't have any social media. I remember 11 years ago, there weren't really a lot of people out there making a living remote work. And that's one of the reasons I went in there. I wanted to work from home, having the kids home all summer. I have 4 kids, right? So they were home all summer, and I wanted to have a job that was flexible. So the charity said, if you do our social media for free, we'll give you a title. They made me social media director. I ended up working for them for 3 years. I was able to put that on LinkedIn, which gave me social proof. And then went out in the community for this charity, helped them with fundraising. It was a golf tournament. I ended up doing 3 tournaments with them. We went from $5,000 tournament to $75,000 tournament, and learned a lot along the way. And because I was out in the community talking as a social media director to businesses, that's how I got my start. And it was a perfect fit for me. Right now, I work with national companies. I'm a speaker. And I do a lot of writing, blogging, copywriting, as well as strategies. So I'm really happy to be here. Hank, I think it's at least 5 years ago, maybe, that we met at Converge South. So it's been a while.
It has. We definitely need to try to get to in the same conference at some point. I know we go to different conferences lately and we haven't met up. So that's going to be important to stay in touch. Everyone here, I need to meet up in person again. Bruce probably has been the longest. I met Adam pretty recently. Laurie and I just got together for dinner the other night. So Bruce, you and I need to get together, have a drink or some coffee or whatever. And the folks that are listening, if you have any questions, you have a captive audience of successful business owners. It could be business related, maybe parenting or pet advice or marketing, whatever you want, go ahead and ask some questions. That's what we're here for, is you, if you're a small business owner or a marketer in general. Which brings me to my next question, which these are not pre-planned or just coming off the top of my head. Going back to Adam, what would you say is your number one marketing tip for somebody that is just getting started or is a small business owner?
So, I mean, earlier we were talking about, the different, I guess, types of businesses that work well in terms of like marketing, right? So we were talking about, SEO and all these different things. Typically for me, I go towards the path of least resistance. And the path of least resistance for me currently is something called TikTok. I'm sure you guys have heard of it. It's something that is very kind of like trendy. I have seen a ton of success on that platform. And I guess to kind of like, round out the story, I have a media production company. That's kind of like one of the arms of the organizations I oversee. And so in terms of content, I'm able to produce relatively high quality content at cost. And then the second company that is also in the story is called Whiskey Grail. Now, Whiskey Grail is a product that is a white oak drinking vessel that is scorched on the inside to mimic the environment that bourbon ages in. The reason why this story is important is because when we first started the company, we were really pumping like Instagram, Facebook, putting out like, great quality content on that. And we were getting some traction. It was requiring me to go out and really like sell. And I was having some success. I would lock down like, 50 grails at once, 100 grails at once. But I wasn't really being able to hit the audience like I really wanted to. So what we did was we shot a unboxing video, and I think unboxing video is something that is very popular. It's a really easy way to get something out into like the ecosystem. And I took that video and I put it on Instagram and I put it out on TikTok. On Instagram, it got 600 views. On TikTok, at least to date, it has 320,000 views. And it completely changed the business. It brought in orders. It brought in like, my web guy was like, what happened? Like, what did you do? Like the numbers were just skyrocketing. And I think, that is really like where a product like that can shine. So if there is one piece that I would recommend doing, is really kind of like investing in that platform and figuring out if that's what works for you, right? Like at the end of the day, if video isn't something that you feel comfortable with, then I think you should probably go towards something else. However, if there was one area that I would recommend, and that's the advice that I give everyone, is to go towards something like TikTok.
Yeah, video content in general, and then just the algorithm on TikTok is favorable. If you have a product, you have to be making video. And if you have a service, it might be a little bit harder if you don't have, a decent budget to really create something great, but you could still create video for services. So that definitely is a great tip. I'm using TikTok now. I'm all in. I'm trying. If you look at me, it's like I'm all over the place because I'm trying the different things and the different ways to edit and do the different hooks and all that. So you'd be like, what is this guy doing? I'm testing, folks. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Actually, it was funny is I took one video and I put it on TikTok and I think I got like 700 views. Then I put it on Reels. I didn't use the watermark version, but I took the original and it ended up giving, last time I checked, like over 11,000 views. Wow. So it just depends, try to repurpose your content too, is what I would add to what you're saying. Create content, put it on TikTok, get with the younger folks, find out how to use it. I'm going to flip it a little bit and I'm going to go to Bruce for the same question. Your marketing tip. You're muted.
Sorry about that. My marketing tip, I'm biased towards SEO. So that and direct response copywriting, but I haven't done copywriting in a long time. But when you have someone who can write words that sell, that's just incredible. And just any business can use that. So direct response is always going to work as long as people are reading. Now, if they stop reading, who knows? And then I like SEO because that's what works for me. And because there's it's easy for me to wrap my head around, and there's such huge buyer intent. People go to search engines, they're looking for something. And you will go to your search engine to like figure out how to get to Costco, right? or you'll go to maps. You're doing that to find information, take me to where I'm going to go buy something. And so much, not every search query is transactional, but so much of it is. People go to search engines to find stuff. And so the idea is just to figure out what they're looking for and put your business in front of them. And then you just don't want to be horrible in what you say. You don't even have to be all that great at copyright. You don't even have to be a copywriter. But if you can get in front of them, it's just like getting more chances at bat. You know, if you get more chances at bat than the other guy, you're going to get more hits, triples, home runs, whatever. And so it just, if I can show up, then I have a better shot of making a sale.
What tool would you recommend if somebody wanted to just look at what they're doing with SEO? Is there a certain tool?
Well, there's a bunch of tools. What do you?
I didn't want to lead you, but one of our sister companies for my contact is Moz. So I don't know if you use Moz at all or what you think.
Okay. I do use some of the, yeah, that's useful, especially the DA thing. If people will just understand DA and get that free Moz bar, because people will be like, oh, I want to show up for this search, and it's just dominated by huge sites. And the DA, if your number is high, then that's what's considered a large website. And if you're a small, like tiny, website that's been around for a year or so, like you're just not going to be able to show up for those searches most of the time. So you have to think a little bit deeper than just, you got to think more about your niche and your customer. So yeah, Moz has good stuff.
Well, I think the average small business owner feels like they don't get a tangible ROI from SEO. So therefore they don't want to spend money on it. They want to try to do it themselves, but that's not the case. Where I think if you're a small business owner and you're just getting your website started, or you want to make updates and changes, I would say work with someone. And, if it's not Bruce, work with someone, because it's helpful. Even if it's just to get you set up right, and then you go from there and you make the tweaks yourself, it's always worth it, so that you are found the right way on Google. Yes, you can write anything, but also how it presents itself in the search results helps people click through and then hopefully do business with you. Let's go to Doreen. Same question.
All right. So I would say my number one marketing tip to get you started is to know what your goals are. Why are you on social media? Remember, everybody's goal is different. Do you want to get downloads for your podcast? Do you want to grow an audience? Do you want to grow a Facebook group? Do you want traffic to your website? Do you want to sell a book? Do you want to sell a product, right? Everybody has a different goal. And if you don't start with that goal and you just start doing a bunch of stuff like throwing spaghetti at the wall, you can't measure anything. So start with a goal. Then I recommend to everybody, start with a strategy, right? Work with somebody who can help you understand what needs to happen to attain the goals. And then when you do that, you also do a social media audit, because in order to measure growth, you have to know where you are right now. So do it. If you're a marketer, or if you're a small business, right? We're talking small business owners, and you've never done a social media audit, but you're somewhat active on social media and you have no idea what's happening, have somebody conduct a social media audit. That means going to look, Googling you and looking where you are active, what you're doing, how often you're posting, how people are reacting, if they're sharing, all of those things. And then, that's a starting point. So then when you implement strategy and you have your goals and all those things, you can measure that growth in 3 months, in 6 months, in a year, because otherwise you're not going anywhere. So the second tip that I'm throwing in there is data. Look at your data all the time. Look at the data for all the content that you're creating. Always be updating, always be changing, change that copy, like Bruce was saying, do those new videos, like Adam was saying, like the video on TikTok work, do more of what works and less of what doesn't. So if you have a whole content calendar ready for the next year and you're just going to put that content out but never look at the first month how it performed, that's not a good strategy. So go create content, make a plan, but adjust the plan according to what's working and whatnot, because you're growing your audience when you're online, and it might change on how they perceive what you're doing. So always be measuring, always be looking at your data. So I snuck in a second tip. I hope that's okay.
And you made me think of something. I'm looking for a last name and I can't find it, but I was recently at a conference for the AMA, which is the American Marketing Association. There was a speaker. His name was Basim. I know that, but he was talking about time management. And I know Laurie can definitely correlate to that. But then also there was a section he talked about podcasting, which I know Adam can correlate to. He talked about everyone wants to start a podcast, but they don't want to do the work to start a podcast. It's hard to get started. I need to do this. How do I do that? What if I fail? All these things. He said, you need to start thinking about, I don't want to start a podcast. I want to have a podcast. So like when we were talking about goals, say, I want to have had a successful podcast, you'll get there faster. And I really love to hit it home. He said, don't think about from A to Z because there's so much in between. A to Z is A to B 26 times. And I really like that. So let's go to Laurie, last but not least.
So Hank, can you repeat the question one more time?
Your number one marketing or business tip.
So when I started back in 2007, my number one tip that I got coming out of the gate, knowing nothing about business, was know your people. Know where they hang out. Go hang out there. Know what they're reading. Go publicize there. So for me, as a leadership coach and facilitator, I go where my people are so that they can find me easily. It's also about knowing what they're thinking about. What do they want to read about, hear about, what's on top of their mind and in their heart, and being where they are, putting your content there helps out.
All right. Back to Bruce. Here's a fun question. Your number one tool, either, or app on your phone or on your computer, your go-to tool. Put everybody on the spot.
So Google number one, and then Google auto suggest, where you type something in and it auto populates. If it auto populates, somebody's searching for that. And then there's this really cheap but really good tool called Keywords Everywhere that you can add as a extension on Chrome and probably Firefox. But it'll give you the search volume, the monthly search volume, and the cost per click. So when I'm looking for traffic, when I'm looking for like, how can I make money with this? I just use Google search bar, and then I use that thing that gives me the data. So when I do a drop down menu, it's like search volume, cost per click, but then sometimes, because I've been doing this for a while, I'll know that tools don't show you everything, and sometimes I'll get a zero volume search on the Google dropdown where I see that the Keywords Everywhere is saying which pulls its data from Google AdWords, but it's saying that there's zero volume searches. But I'll know, just because I've done this a lot, that that's a really relevant search. And if there's zero volume searches, it's probably going to be an easier search to show up for. And I want to show up for it anyway. Right. And so sometimes zero volume searches can be really good searches for your whatever niche you're in. But those are probably Google, and then with Keywords Everywhere on top of it, I use that multiple times a day, all day. Like, I use that way more than any other tool. I don't know if it's the best tool or the most useful. Those two are probably the ones I use the most.
All right. Right. And it could be something personal too. If it's something you use to meditate or, jog, whatever that is. So we're going to find out from Adam what his is. Favorite app or program.
I was hoping I was
most used.
I was hoping to get another question, but I think I think it depends on like what I'm doing, right? If I'm editing, like obviously we edit on Final Cut. Canva is a great platform if you're doing graphics. I mean, it makes it super, super easy for you to put out content that looks great because of the templates that are existing. Use a lot of email. I don't know if you guys use email or not. Thunderbird is kind of like my go-to.
Thunderbird.
Yeah. Is that not popular anymore? I don't know.
Not really. Market share is very low, but
oh really?
Diehard.
Fine. But I mean, I'm on Thunderbird, Chrome, that's just a few that I typically go towards.
All right. Mine really quick before we go to Laurie is Asana, which is a task management tool. It reminds me to use the other tools that I use. So Laurie, you're next.
Okay, so as a productivity coach, I'm about efficiency and getting things done effectively. So when apps talk to each other and make one post go in multiple places, that's what I like. So for me, Instagram that talks to Facebook, LinkedIn that talks to Twitter, it affords me the opportunity to kind of disperse information more effectively and efficiently. So anything that talks to something is my app.
Integrations.
Integrations, yes,
That's my life.
So,
all right. Doreen?
Mine is Notes, my Notes app on my iPhone that also pops up on my desktop, which, I have a Mac, so it is a lifesaver. Every single client has notes. I have bit.lys. I have information saved. I can type something on my phone when I'm running or I'm out running errands, and then I know when I get to my desk, it's right there. I have a filing system for it. They're searchable. You can share them. I'm in my Notes app all the time. I absolutely love it. And then another app I use all the time is WhatsApp. My family is in Europe. I have friends from all over the world. So I do use WhatsApp for, text messaging with friends, family, colleagues. So those are my two main phone functions. And of course, I love playing brain games. So I'm on there sometimes just playing brain games. But that's not productivity, but those are the apps that I use most.
Awesome. Now, Adam, did you have something on your mind as far as being asked a question? Is there something that you wanted to bring up?
There wasn't anything, but thinking, I love the Notes, the app, but I would also add in there AirDrop. I use AirDrop heavily.
Oh, yeah.
Just the movement of like files back and forth, even between like me and my team, if we're in close vicinity, just makes everything super smooth.
Yeah.
Right, especially if you're filming on an iPhone and you needed to drop it to your Mac to edit it. I probably should have picked that.
Brilliant. It's brilliant. And that's one reason I have both, because I have friends who have an iPhone but a PC, or the other way around. It's just like you got to have both. That just makes it all work.
Right.
That's right.
Folks that are watching, if you have any questions, drop them in the chat. We'll definitely get them in front of the speakers, get their thought, get their ideas. Or maybe if you have a recommendation for them on some tools they need to use that they didn't mention, that'd be great. Laurie, did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, so for me, scheduling is key because I do have 3 services, so I make sure that everybody gets my time. And for me, my Calendly is amazing because it syncs with my iPhone and I'm able to add all my calendars. I'm a single mom, so I share my kids. That's in my calendar and stuff like that. And making sure that less balls are dropped if I have to drop any. That, that automation of connecting the iPhone to the Calendly to the Gmail and all the other calendars. So
isn't technology great? Keeps getting better.
Except when it's not, right?
Right. Yeah. When it's not working. Yeah. I remember a lot of platforms used to have bugs for a long time, but now some of them are starting to fix them pretty fast. So here's a yay or nay question. Is email marketing important to what you do? And I'm just going to go in order of who I see people. Doreen, yes or no for email?
Yes.
Adam, yes or no for email?
I want it to be.
I love that answer. Laurie?
Yes, when I'm consistent.
And then Bruce?
I don't use it, but I know I should.
So 1 important and 2, 3 that you should be doing more. All right. Awesome. And that is my struggle as a public speaker, is trying to inspire people to do email more, to use it more, to either get started or figure out what you're really doing and be successful with it. All right. This has been great. I want to see if there's any other topics I can think of that would be beneficial to anyone watching now or the recorded version. Let's talk about maybe, what was a big challenge that you had to overcome in your business? And let's start with Laurie, who raised her hand.
So it has taken me, I started my business back in 2007. The boys were 1 year old. And as a mom, understanding that it's okay to say no to my family sometimes for my business. And as they have gotten older, they are now 16 and driving. I still do what I do so that I'm there for them. Like today, this week in North Carolina is Teacher Appreciation Week. I was at the school helping out with giving donuts to the teachers because that's what I like to do. I like to give back. I like to be part of their lives. They play soccer. That being said, now that I'm in this business as long as I am, it's easier for me to be like, hey guys, mom's got a gig. I'll be at your next soccer game. But that took a really long time to do the ebb and flow of being a parent and a full-time business owner.
All right. Bruce, challenge that you have overcome or that you're currently working through.
When I was getting started and I would tell people that I could move websites to the top of Google searches, basically everyone always wants to be at the top of Google searches. And so I would waste so much time with people who are like, yeah, I want that, but they had no desire to pay for it. And I wasted a lot of time doing that, but it was a good learning experience. And I kind of ended up falling back on some of the stuff I learned in direct response copywriting. Gary Halbert, a famous copywriter, has had a saying about how he did a talk in front of like maybe UCLA class on marketing or something. And he's like, all right, we're going to sell hamburgers. All you students, you get any advantage you want. You can have organic, you can have the cheapest, or you can have the most gourmet. You can have any advantage you want, and I'm going to outsell you. And so, some people wanted organic, some people wanted the best spot on the corner, and then he said, okay, I'm going to beat all of you. And they're like, how are you going to do that? And he's like, because I'm going to sell my hamburgers to a hungry crowd. And so that's what I had to learn. And so that's when I started filtering people and coming up with a process how to deal with people. It's like, oh, you're interested in SEO. Well, one of the first questions I asked, have you ever spent any money marketing your business? Like spent money, like you could do mailers. I spent a ton of money when I was, that was huge for me. You could spend money on radio ads. You can spend money on, if you spent money on Yellow Book in the past, or like a billboard. But if someone has never spent money on marketing their business, SEO is kind of complex to understand anyway. Like I'm not going to be the first person to make them decide it's a good idea to spend money on their business.
Right.
So like I look for a hungry crowd. If you are an up and running business and you're used to marketing, you could spend money on trade booths at trade shows. You got to be doing something. It's a mindset thing, because I wasted a lot of time. And so once I figured that out, things went a lot better.
Now, how many times do you get people come to you and say, I want to be on the first page of Google for 100 keywords and I don't want to pay much?
Well, they usually don't know about keywords. They just know I want to be on the first page of Google and I don't want to pay much. The answer to every SEO question is it depends.
Yeah.
So I try and handle it as gently as possible, but I get, if they're a time waster, I try to gently direct them to something that's going to be a better use of their time and mine.
Yeah, I hate how people think. They think it's just having that keyword on your landing page, and that's it, where there's everything. It's like the experience they have when you come to their website. There's just so much. And anybody watching this, if you have any questions, go to Bruce. He's really good at answering questions I have quickly, but hopefully we don't inundate you with a whole bunch of LinkedIn requests, but maybe that's a good problem to have.
I'm an SEO nerd. I love this stuff. The problem is I talk too much about this. So if people ask me questions, that's fine.
Well, if folks are hungry for SEO, they can go to you to get fed.
Yes.
Let's go to Doreen, your challenge.
All right. So my challenge was when I started my business, I had never worked in any office environment. I'd never worked. I had been a stay-at-home mom and a nanny my whole career, my whole life. So I had no credentials and no credibility. So that was a challenge, right? So how do you go beyond that? And that was an inner thing for a while. I gained credentials by, as I shared before, becoming that social media director for a local charity. But it took me a long time to realize I didn't really need the credentials. I have taken some online courses, I've gotten some certifications, but my work stands for what I do. I've got all my business comes from referrals. That means that I'm doing a really good job, not just talking to people, but actually providing the work and delivering solutions to my clients. I have one client I've been with for almost 7 years now. I'm still doing her social media. So that just means that people are happy with what I do. So that's kind of gone away, but that was, I think, a very personal challenge as far as what I just heard, Bruce talk about. I used to get taken to lunch for a $6 sandwich and talk for 2 hours. Like, I don't do that anymore. And I have a really good tip. If that happens to you, anytime now, if people say, hey, can you talk about your business? I give them 15 free minutes. And then I say, I have another meeting. I always have another meeting. Right. So I just need to get out. I'm like, hey, I'm here. I have another meeting in 15 minutes or 30. I always have another meeting. So that's one way to get out when you're giving away your time. I don't like that saying, can I pick your brain? If somebody says that to me, I said, well, I'm happy to schedule a 15-minute conversation with you. But before we do that, why don't you go read this blog or I have this information. I had somebody recently do that to me. 15 minutes with me. He wanted to stay on. And I said, well, I don't have time right now. I have another appointment. I said, but here is a link to a webinar that I did. And it's 1 hour about LinkedIn creator mode. This is what you need to learn. So let me know once you've watched it and we can schedule another 15-minute meeting. He didn't even make it to the end of the day. He sent me an email and goes, never mind.
Right.
So I could have wasted hours on somebody. And then I always ask people, what's your budget? I mean, just like Bruce, if you don't have a budget or you tell me, I don't know, you probably can't afford me. So that weeds out a lot of people. You have to have the conversation about money, even though that's hard. And I've learned that was a challenge in the beginning. It was very hard for me to say out loud how much money I want. And I'm not shy anymore. That comes with time.
I hate that I have this curse that I accumulate this knowledge and this wisdom, and sometimes I don't remember where I got it from because it's just so much. I remember somebody saying, if you want to be successful, you have to reach out to people that are more successful than you. So it would look like this normally, right? Hey, Dorian, do you have time? I want to take you out to lunch or buy you a Starbucks virtually. Can you give me an hour, right? And somebody that is really successful, they're not going to have the time to do that. Where the conversation should be like, hey, Dorian, I know you're rarely into social media and you're really successful in helping clients. I want to be as successful to you. How much do you charge per hour? And you would tell me $400, right? Mm-hmm. And then I would say, hey, can we have lunch? I'm going to give you $400. I just need an hour of your time to pick your brain. You'd probably be more apt to say yes to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So hopefully that's a tip to other folks is if you are like, say, a small business owner owns a brick and mortar store and you want to own 10 by the end of the year, reach out to somebody that has 10 stores and pay them for their time, because that time you have with that person captive is going to be so helpful. People just don't realize that, rather than just going on LinkedIn and just saying, how do you grow your business? So they're just going to say hard work, right?
Well, and because here's the thing, here's the truth. You're not paying them for 1 hour. You're paying them for their 10 years of experience or 15 years. It's that electrician that comes in that has to, because the machinery isn't working, takes 1 minute, puts in a screw, and then bills the company for $1,000, and they get upset. He's like, it was $1 for the screw and $999 for the knowledge. Right. So that's why you get that $1,000 bill. So that's right. As an entrepreneur, that's what I've learned. That was that learning curve where I said I didn't have credibility or credentials. I now have both.
Did you see that image going around of the welder that went on the job interview and it was text with it? And
no,
they said it was, it was between $20 and $30 per hour is the salary when he asked. So it was a picture, but I guess he sent samples in of welding, and they were like, what is this? This one's crappy and this one's good. He said, well, the first one's an example of $20 an hour and the other one's an example of 30. Let's go to Adam for his challenge.
Yeah, I was thinking about it, and I wanted to kind of like throw it back. I do restaurants, so I have a restaurant in Statesboro called So Yummy Asian Kitchen, and I want to talk about a little bit about like the initial kind of experience, or the first thing that people hear about a business. When we first started, we had 2 weeks of a kind of like a soft opening, and during that 2 weeks, we did something that at the time I thought was genius, and we did a reservation system because I wanted to control the amount of people that I could expect. And we did this reservation system, and everything worked out extremely well. We were able to move guests in and out. But unfortunately, what happened was the general public then tied coming to the restaurant with, you have to have a reservation to go. And I dealt with that probably up to a year or a year and a half after that, with people being confused and calling and saying, well, do I need to make a reservation? Thankfully, we're probably in year 3 or 4 now, and we rarely have that. I mean, the pandemic also kind of like threw things in for a jumble. But, to me, I think it's so important. It made me realize that, when you present your organization to the masses, you have to be very strategic and very deliberate, just so that those mistakes don't occur. It was something that, again, we had to deal with. Coming around the back end, we consistently put out content to try to like remedy that. But unfortunately, that content doesn't always hit everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that would be one of the challenges. Just be very conscious of that moving forward.
Yeah, it's like in the software industry, and we're in software, and we have the ability to create a free account without a credit card. A lot of times there'll be software providers out there that will say create a free account, but you have to enter a credit card because after 30 or 60 days, they're going to charge you. Where do you need to put that in there? That's always a struggle in marketing. Do you say that, or do you not say that? And we decided to say that on most of our pages. So now we're going to kind of wrap things up, Adam, while I have you on the main screen here, the main stage to say, let's go through and tell people how they can learn more from you, how they can connect with you, anything you have going on that you'd like to talk about.
Yeah, to connect with me, I have my website, adamsang.com. I have the best place that I put out the most content on is probably on TikTok and Instagram. The Instagram, you can find me at Adam Sang. It sounds a little bit like what I'm saying. That's why we kind of like went with that. I also have a podcast. I just really love business, and I love talking to people and learning about their businesses. It was fascinating today hearing from all the speakers and learning about their journey and what they've kind of like gone through. I'll be reaching out to each of you individually because I'm hopeful that there's some way for us to work together. But yeah, super excited about that.
All right, Laurie, you've been in the background for a little while.
The best way to reach out to me is through LinkedIn. I'm always there. I'm posting. I'm responding to posts, and Facebook is also a place you can reach out. You can connect with me. And I'd love to connect with everybody who would like to learn more about being more productive. So thanks for having me. If you
find yourself in the same room with Laurie, she'll connect with you. Don't worry.
That's what I do, Hank. But seriously, I love connecting with people. I love helping entrepreneurs who are fresh out of the gate. And thanks for having me today, Hank. I appreciate it.
I appreciate each and every one of you because you're providing the value, and I'm just doing my best to MC this thing. Bruce, you're up.
The best place to connect with me, probably email SEO@determinedsolutions.com. My website is determinedsolutions.com. And then LinkedIn also works to a lesser extent as well.
So you read emails, but you don't send too many, especially when it comes to email marketing. Okay, I understand now.
Yeah. I know it's important, but I just don't do it. I need to, but I don't.
Well, hopefully eye contact can inspire you. Follow us on all the social media channels. All right, Doreen, you're up.
Hey, everybody. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I have a pretty unique name, Doreen Moore in Van Dam. I am everywhere under the name Moore in Media. My orange glasses is part of my branding. It's my Dutch heritage, born and raised in the Netherlands. But I'm also very active on Facebook. I'm a community manager, so I do spend quite a bit of time there. I would recommend if you reach out to me, send a message, right? Either on Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram and say, hey, Doreen, I saw you on the Eye Contact show with Hank. Give me a little bit of context so I know why you're reaching out. And then I'd love to have a conversation with you. And LinkedIn is working for me really well. Talking about email and newsletters, the newsletters on LinkedIn are doing really, really well. It's a new feature as a content creator, turn on creator mode, and they work really well. So my hope is that once I get my podcast really up and running, because I started one in January, that I'm taking some of my newsletters from LinkedIn and then repurposing them on an email newsletter as well. But if you need to start somewhere, that's a great place to start. So I'd love to connect with anybody who wants to learn more about marketing and strategy.
Steph, thank you for letting us know we did a decent job today. It had nothing to do with me. It's the great speakers we've had. And also Helen, hopefully it said Helen, appreciate you being here. Hopefully you'll stay connected with all of us. Feel free to connect with all the speakers today. It was great moderating this panel. I want to do more of this. I think it's something that I can drum up and do more. And I got to think of a different name other than the Eye Contact show, Doreen. I don't know if that is a good one, but we'll think about something.
I'll help you. I'll help you brainstorm some ideas. Yeah.
We did start a podcast. It was like piloted and we stopped doing it. We may resurrect it, but it was called Talking About Email. And I did it with a gentleman that worked with us, and he was in the UK. And when we ended every episode, we said, cheers, y'all.
Hey, here's my number one tip about starting a podcast. Somebody gave it to me and it's worked. When you start a podcast, book at least 20 guests. That's it. When you do that and you have a commitment to 20 people, you're going to keep going. I'm on episode 16. I haven't missed a week because I've got them all booked. So
Doreen, I'd like to be 21.
I'm booked until like 36, but I'll send you an invite. Absolutely.
Whatever the number is, just that's a tip that I received. And so if you want to resurrect it, Hank, that's the way to do it. Go book your slots, and that's it.
Yeah. And I have my podcast and my struggle is it is the time, because I'm creating so much other content. It's not, I don't have time to create content. I'm creating other content, but I have people pitching me all the time to be on my show, and I just don't have time to vet them, line them up and record. Then there's the editing. There's the whole thing. Like, I want to do a podcast, but there's a lot of work. But once it's done and you hit publish, you're just so proud of those little babies that come in, you're putting out into the world, and it's giving people that knowledge and information. But I need to decide if I want to keep doing that or not. Or, as Adam would say, should I be on TikTok?
Absolutely, you should. There's no question about it. I mean, it's about remixing it, right? So like taking that same content and being able to chop it up to send it, I would say.
Well, I appreciate everybody being here. Today's episode was brought to you by eyecontact.com. What I'd like to do is invite the speakers backstage. Stick around. I just want to thank you and maybe give you green M&Ms or something in the green room, whatever that is. But folks that are watching and may watch this in the recorded version, we appreciate you. We appreciate small business. We want to help you, each and every one of us, not just Eye Contact, not me, Hank Hoffmeyer, and the speakers. They want to help you get the help you need, make the investments that are required to grow your business, and most importantly, never give up. Thank you, everybody, and thank you to my speakers.
Thank you.